All right, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Malzberg with you. Joining me now is John Sununu, of course, former governor of the great state of New Hampshire, former chief of staff to President George H.W. Bush, and author of The Quiet Man, The Indispensable Presidency of George H.W. Bush. Governor, welcome, sir.
How are you, Steve?
I'm good.
To be on with you.
Thank you. My pleasure to have you. Good to talk to you. So much is going on. Let me ask you, this meeting, it bothers me that the drip, that there's more to drip. Why do you think they just didn't get ahead of this at first blush and say, okay, there were 8 people there, blah, blah, blah. One was a Russian lawyer. The email said Russian government attempt. Why didn't they just get it all on the table instead of giving the CNNs of the world drip, every day a new revelation that just looks bad?
When you find out, tell me. I don't know, Steve. Look, they get clumsy on a lot of things. It's a hard environment to operate in. And trying to recollect what happened a year ago at one of might have been 200 meetings in that period of time. I can understand how difficult it is, but like you, I don't understand why they didn't work extra hard to get it right the first time. Yeah,
it would have solved a lot, I think. Now you have Donald Trump tweeting out today that most politicians, this is something he said before, I think he said before, or the Sun said before, most politicians would have done the same exact thing, meeting with those to get op research on an opponent. Would you have done that under those circumstances? Is that the way to solve this, by saying, hey, everybody would have done the same exact thing?
Well, look, most politicians would have tried to figure out how to get their hands on that opposition research. That doesn't mean that they would have met. And so, yes, I will acknowledge the important part of that it would have been nice to figure out how to get a hold of that opposition research. But I really do think taking the meeting was not the smartest thing in the world.
Now, do you believe, I mean, I don't want to put you in a lawyer's role here, or put your lawyer hat on.
Oh, thank God I'm not a lawyer.
I know. But this is going to go on. I think the best thing that could happen, since he's so willing to do it, is that Donald Trump Jr. comes before the committee and just tells everything and answers every question. He must feel, and his lawyers must feel, he has nothing to hide if he's willing to testify in open session.
I think you're right, but I also think the point that Jay Sekulow tried to make on the shows on Sunday is a very important one. It's up to those that think there's something wrong with the meeting, something wrong with what is going on, to at least identify either the rule or the regulation or the statute or the law or whatever it is that they think the meeting violates. So far, none of them, none of the apologists for the Democrats on all the liberal media, nor the Democrats themselves, nor Democratic senators, nor Democratic congressmen, have been able to point to a specific piece of paper that indicates a law, regulation, statute, whatever, that was violated by the meeting, even if you accept the worst interpretation of what the meeting was all about.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, you talk about what statute was broken, what crime was committed. I mean, for the vice presidential candidate, Tim Kaine, who, I call him Mr., the interrupter, for him to say that this was treason right off the bat, I mean, my goodness, it's crying wolf, is it not?
It's Tim Kaine showing us the absence of understanding of what's going on, and his willingness to just throw words out to create a headline for himself. When you have nothing to offer, the only way to create a headline is to use explosive words, and that's what Kaine did.
Right. Jeffrey Lord put a piece in the American Spectator last week based on an interview that I did with Dick Morris back last September. And when he brought it up on CNN, Anderson Cooper said, oh, Dick Morris, that's your source, Dick Morris? But what Dick Morris told me was that in the 90s, when Boris Yeltsin was running for re-election, that Morris had a pollster go over there, an affiliate of his, and do polling for Yeltsin, that Bill Clinton would talk to Yeltsin on the phone, basically at Morris's advice, giving him telling him what to talk about, what kind of commercials to run, how to win re-election, which ticked off Putin because Putin was strongly supporting the opponent to Yeltsin. Now, what I suggest to the Republicans is call Dick Morris, get him under oath, and let him testify to this. Won't it put things in a whole different light, in a whole different context, if this is testified to under oath that the sitting president of the United States did this?
Well, it would certainly add a little bit of color to the process. Look, the liberals and the Democrats are so focused on trying to create something out of nothing that yes, you'd get your moment in court, so to speak, by having that testimony take place, but you don't really think that the same folks that are pushing this stuff on the shows today and on television today would even hesitate for 1 second to move away, would stop or slow down for 1 second to move away from their line. They're trying to make something out as being bad that isn't bad, and no matter whether their folks did it or whether their folks doing it gives an excuse to Putin and his folks to be a little bit angry at the Clintons, doesn't make any difference. You're talking about people who don't care about logic, who don't care about substance, who don't care about reality, only care about creating the image of something nefarious that doesn't exist.
Now let's move on to health care. Of course, we have the unfortunate circumstance of John McCain with surgery today. But that aside, and when he comes back and when he recoups, God willing, it'll be soon. I mean, I don't see that. I don't understand how they're going to do this. I don't see, from the outside, looking in and listening to the reports and seeing the actions and non-actions, I don't see how they get this done.
Steve, what you're looking at is the problem that any executive branch has dealing with a legislative branch, where you have in the House, 435 cats to be herded, and in the Senate, 100 to be herded. And if you're only looking at your own party, you're still looking at well over 200 in the House and 52 in the Senate. And every one of those senators thinks they're the smartest person in the world, and they don't understand why the other 51 colleagues don't immediately accept what they're saying as the only thing that can be done. It's a battle of egos. It's a battle of people who sometimes demand perfection to the loss of getting something very good. It is not unusual. It's got to be worked and worked and worked and worked. And I don't have a magic solution to this. McConnell knows how to get the process through. He's got to deal on one side with the Susan Collinses and on the other side the Rand Pauls. And that, I think, really explains quite clearly how difficult the process is for somebody who's trying to get legislation passed.
One more, and there are two things to this story that really grabbed me. One, Bernie Sanders and his wife have been reportedly under federal investigation for a number of weeks now. And if you put on the news, I'm talking about the networks and the CNNs and all that, you wouldn't know it because that's not news. And now Bernie Sanders' wife, this is all about a college loan and forging information and maybe even using Bernie Sanders' Senate office to pressure the bank to make the college loan to the college where Bernie Sanders' wife was president. And now she's blaming this whole thing on sexism. They're going after her because she's a woman.
Yeah, that's what Hillary did. She went after her because she's a woman. Look, the Sanders are really petrified, whether they acknowledge it or not. There is serious wrongdoing there, it appears. She was trying to get a loan for the college, and there are circumstances there that are awfully fishy. It's in the hands of the FBI, if I believe what the press is saying. It's in the hands of the FBI. And you've got to wait and see what comes out. The situation she has there really depends on the details. We don't have the details. The FBI does. They wouldn't be going this deeply into it, I don't think, if there wasn't some smoke there and beyond the smoke, a little bit of fire.
And what does it take for the media to to finally report on this? An indictment?
Probably an indictment. That's probably right. They won't report it until there's an indictment.
Governor, it is a pleasure to speak to you as always, my friend.
Thank
You're
you,
looking
Steve.
great. Thank you for your time.
Let me know when we can do it again.
I will do that. Thank you, Governor John Sununu, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, I want you to keep it tuned to Newsmax TV. Go to newsmaxtv.com and see all the places you can now watch us on DirecTV and on AT&T and all that. There it is, AT&T UVerse 1220, Direct 349, Verizon Fios 615, and of course, always stay connected at newsmax.com.